Hey guys, do you hear me? Um, Sorry for the small delay. Today, it's kind of actually it's a long workshop, and I'm not sure I can handle everything in 30 minutes, but I will try. Uh, at least I'll try to explain what is Vantage Fusion and why it's so like what is the hype about Vantage Fusion and how it works under the hood. But let's make some small recap for this Vantage. Firstly, so basically Vantage started as a hackathon project at Ethereum New York at 2019 by almost 1.5 men. Right now we have about 200 people. We have a lot of metrics. We have billions of volumes of dollars on multiple chains. We actually are one of the largest DEX aggregator on the market. We also have multiple other protocols like Limit Order Protocol. We do have Vantage Wallet. Actually, it's a list of protocols. And you can take a look on some of them here. One of the most popular one right now is Limit Order Protocol and Vantage Fusion. Also, we do have Vantage Pro, that is a product for institutionals that provides KYC and AML policies. Let's make some intro about what is Vantage Aggregation Protocol firstly. Maybe you heard that Vantage is DEX aggregator, and actually it's true. We do have API for aggregation information on the DEXs. How basically that works? Let's imagine that you want to make a swap on the Uniswap. And in this case, let's imagine that you want to swap, for example, 100 Ethereum to some amount of DAI. And what will be the problem that you will have potentially? That if you will use Uniswap, they actually use specific pools, liquidity pools, to make the transaction, to make a swap. And of course, you will have some price slippage. What is the best idea how you can have the potentially the best lowest possible slippage in this case? You need to have multiple pools and try to split your 100 Ethereum amount to some small parts. It varies how small it is, but it must be that small that the price slippage in each pool where you will try to make a swap will be almost zero. And you need to do all of that inside one transaction. So basically, it's how Vantage works under the hood as a Vantage DEX aggregator product. We basically split, if you want to swap, for example, DAI to Vantage, we split amount of DAI to some small subparts and split these subparts to another subparts and try to route all this and emulate all of that logic through multiple liquidity pools for almost each DEX that have existed on Ethereum chain, for example, or on a Binance Smart chain, and trying to find the best option to get the max return and have the lowest gas for the user. That's pretty basic right now, and most of the guys are aware of it, but I just want to remind that how it works. And the main feature here is that it happens atomically. So, for example, if somewhere price goes wrong, we have some desired minimum amount that you will need to get. If you are not okay with that, the whole transaction will be reverted. So basically, you are protected from any edge case that can happen during this swap. But the main problem here is that if it's one atomic transaction, and in some cases, for example, if it's some shitcoin, and sometimes everyone needs to swap some shitcoins. In this case, if you have a lot of them, you can have a really big slippage. It doesn't matter how much DEXs you use, because liquidity for some shitcoins can exist, for example, only on SEX or on other chains. And if you are doing that atomically, that means that it's impossible to aggregate all of that liquidity in one atomic swap. You need to wait a bit to make it. In this case, the limit order protocol can help you. What is a limit order protocol? It's quite the same as basic limit orders on any SEX, but it's completely decentralized. So basically, you just sign a specific structure that you agree that our smart contract can withdraw the tokens from your account and fill it with by using specific function and get some tokens instead. Basically make a swap, and anyone can use this function, and they just need to provide specific instruction from your side. It's a signature and data which contract they need, which token they need to withdraw. Basically, the limit order protocol allows to make a gasless transactions on your own side. I mean, you can make a gasless swap, for example, in this case. You can just need a proof, for example, for the DAI to the limit order contract and make a limit order, for example, to sell DAI for Ethereum. And anyone can actually fill this transaction on behalf of your user. And in this case, basically, not user is paying the gas, but market taker is paying the gas. It's a cool feature, but the problem here is that there is specific price condition here. It's fixed. So that basically means that if price goes wrong, you can wait for like 4 hours or 4 weeks to get a good price to make this order executed. If you try to say in the tax terms, it's like market sell. There is no market sell here. It's only limit order and you need to wait. There is no any guarantee that it will be executed, even if the price will be the same as the market price, for example. What if you want to make something on the market price, but we want to make it like limit order? Is it possible in the DeFi? And actually, that's the question what we have. And right now we can say that it's possible. It's actually, actually it's the solution what we make with the 1inch Fusion. We want to make something like market price sell. At the same time, it must be like atomic. It must be limit order inspired. It must be gasless. It must be protected from MEV attacks all at once. And that's what is Fusion actually. It's a fusion of multiple protocols at 1inch. How it works? Basically, it's auction. You try to say that I am okay to sell specific amount of DAI, and the rate is going down and down, and all of that is actually one limit order. And what it allows to anyone, for example, to the resolver, to the party who will try to fill your order, it allows to aggregate liquidity during that moment. So basically, you killed multiple issues at the same time. Firstly, you try to actually have a market sell feature, so you sell some tokens without any. You don't care. It will be all filled. There is a guarantee that it will be filled. There is high probability that it will be filled. At the same time, the price slippage will be a bit lower because you don't need to make it atomic. And for this case, we actually use price auctions, and this is like example of the curve for the price auction for the rates where the rate is going down during the time. It's basically it looks like Dutch auction actually. The main feature is that all of that logic is quite simple for the user, and there is almost no difference for the user when you try to use 1inch Fusion. It's quite the same as just make on-chain transaction, but it's off-chain transaction. It's basically signing a specific limit order on the side of the user, and that's it. But there are some additional features here. The first one, of course, is the gasless execution. What I mean is that as a limit orders is off-chain transaction, and also you basically just send some data to some database. That's it, and anyone can access to this signature to your data in this database and execute transaction on your side. The gasless execution doesn't mean that you don't pay gas fee at all. This gasless fee is just included in the rate of the Fusion order. And basically, it's still a bit more efficient than if you will try to pay on your own, because in the Fusion protocol, there is a specific gas optimizations. Basically, that means that when somebody tries to pay for your transaction, to fill the transaction, the layer can execute multiple transactions at the same time. It will be one on-chain transaction, but multiple Fusion transactions in one transaction. It can save a lot of like gas, a lot of Ethereum on gas, for example. And when when the volumes are large, it can be like 10 times more efficient, for example, than just paying on your own for that. So that's basically how any Fusion orders are working right now. Any off-chain orders are working. The order is going to the blockchain through your layers, through some market taker who is doing that. It's quite the same for the limit order and for the Fusion. Let's try to make it more complicated. Why we have a view protection by default here? Because there is no any blockchain communication on the side of the user. There is no any option how somebody can steal your data or re-execute it on your own. But it doesn't mean that there is no MIF protection for the resolvers. But the risks in this case are much lower than for the user, because when resolvers are trying to fill this order, they have risks that somebody can execute it a bit more efficient, and they can arbitrage the resolvers on their own. But the price difference here is not that critical, and it's more a case of the resolvers how they can try to find the way how to protect from the myth. So the risks are lower for the users, a bit higher for the resolvers. And what about like liquidity feature? That basically, actually we can aggregate all the liquidity across multiple chains during some auction time. So for example, in case of any resolver, we don't have any design how you need to aggregate or how you need to fill the each user order. You just have a time for that, and it's not like forced. You can't be forced to execute any order as a resolver. So basically, it's open market, and each resolver just can aggregate liquidity from any point. In case of our shitcoins, for example, how it can work. We basically need just, for example, any shitcoin that's existing on the Ethereum and existing on the Polygon, and all liquidity is on the Polygon. You can see that there is a pretty good, interesting order on the Ethereum side, and there is no any liquidity to execute it right now. Any resolver can take some time and withdraw this liquidity, for example, from the Polygon chain to the Ethereum, and after that, it can be executed on the Ethereum side. It will be impossible to do the same logic, for example, on aggregation protocol, because it must be atomic and it must be instantly. And in this case, that's the instant profits for all the parties. It just makes the markets more efficient, because users can get more tokens in this case, and resolvers can get some profits from that case as well. There is some slippage for the user because of the price option. The race goes down, but this spread is not that high because it's pretty open market, and it's very easy to become a vanish resolver right now. So right now, let's take a look on some precise example about like price auction. I just want to say that we do have right now a more dynamic formula for each pair on each front end. So it depends on which token you are selling and which token you are buying. The price formula can differ. And for example, on Ethereum direct rate, if you try to to say that in the beginning when you're trying to make an order, a price auction, the price is going down not that fast. We are allowing like resolvers to like instantly fill this order. But if you see that during some like amount of time, like 1 minute, nobody feel it, that basically means that price is really very bad and nobody will feel, and we can make it a bit faster going down, making this period a bit more extreme. If it's still okay, that means that the market is changing rapidly, and we need to stop working like this and try to have the same stable formula. So basically, it's a lot of logic on the price formula under the way how you can execute the auction. It's another way how you can make the markets more efficient. It also depends on the pair and the liquidity of the pair. We also do take care of all of that, and it's another like opportunity how you can, for example, design something or propose your own price formula for specific pairs and make it more efficient. Just want to mention that. The whole picture actually looks like that. If you try to understand Vanish Fusion, is that market maker is basically users. They just need to send an order, send it to the network of the Vanish Fusion. After that, Vanish network register this order as a fusion order and share this fusion order across resolvers. Right now, there are top 10 resolvers that can execute any order instantly. And if you want to participate or become a resolver, there is a documentation on our website how you can do this. Basically, the entry barrier for any resolver is quite low. It's about 100 Vanish tokens. And if you want to participate, it's just like less than $60. So basically, any resolver can fill limit actually it's limit order. So any resolver can fill this limit order for 1 inch a smart contract. That is open source, and when it's filled, a limit order is executed and sent funds to the maker. So basically to the user. So the logic is off-chain and on-chain at the same time. There are some questions. What is Vanish Fusion? Is it off-chain logic or is it on-chain logic? It's a hybrid. It's sometimes it's off-chain in some cases. In other cases, it's on-chain. But basically, it's quite the same as a limit order protocol, but more advanced, with more additional rules over limit order, if you want to try to understand it. Let's talk a bit how you can work with the Vanish Fusion. Basically, there are two options how you can integrate and work on the Vanish Fusion. The first one, actually, you can integrate Vanish Fusion to your app. Let's imagine you have a wallet or any app that needs to have a functionality to swap any token to any other token. In this case, it's pretty simple. We do have a Vonage Fusion SDK, and in this case, it's in JavaScript. We have a Rust version as well, and if you want, you can just use it. Yeah, there is a pretty easy example here. I will show you 1 second how it works. So basically, in this case, you can use, for example, Node.js application to make a Fusion order. So we have Vonage Fusion SDK. It's open source and it's quite transparent. It's not that hard to install it. In this case, you just need a node. You need a private key. You need a maker address of of the user who will be creating a limit order. And what you need to do is basically have a Web3 node and our SDK. You just install our SDK, set up our SDK with our network, our URL of storage of limit order of Fusion orders, and Web3 provider. And basically, you just need to place an order where you specify a from token address, which token you are trying to swap, 2 token addresses you are trying to to buy, and amount in from token address. So it's only for 4 parameters for the function. It's quite simple, and in that case, I don't have enough Ethereum right now to execute this function, but basically it's just one function. It's not a lot of issue to make it work. So it's the simplest way how we can work with Vonage Fusion order, and also it's gasless. So basically, I just want to add, when you will try to use, for example, to run SDK or Vonage Fusion SDK, it can be not working because you still need to make a proof of the from token amount to the Fusion contract. If you don't make an approve, you need to use permit function. In this case, it's more complicated if you want to combine permits and make a Fusion order. But it's possible, of course. We do support permits in the Fusion protocol. But in this example, you need to make a proof before you're trying to make a swap. So that's the one example how you can use Vonage Fusion orders. And the second one actually is to become a resolver. If you want to become a resolver in Vonage ecosystem, there is multiple steps what you need to do. Basically, the first one, you need to have some Vonage tokens staked. You need to apply as a resolver, and basically all of that is pretty decentralized. But if you want to be on the front end side, on the Vonage front end client, there are multiple additional steps that requires us to connect with you, to chat with you. So if we have a website, we have a website form where we specify all the data, what you need to do to become a resolver. But basically, in the end, it will end up with a chat with our team that helps you to integrate and to become a resolver on our side. We are obligatory to make some compliance checks at the same time. But if you want to become completely decentralized, you can potentially do this. You can still do this. That's the main point about Vonage Fusion. That is, right now the network is much more decentralized, and we can't stop you to become a resolver because it's mostly on the smart contract side. I just want to explain a bit more how resolver works, how the logic under the resolver works. And for that, in this case, I need to open Vonage. Give me 1 second, please. So let's take a look at our delegate tab at Vonage front end. 1 second. So right now we have multiple resolvers, and what is it? Only top 10 resolvers in this list can be allowed to fill transactions. And what does it mean? All of them are competing for your transaction. Each Vonage Fusion order can be filled not atomically, but by parts. So basically, when you create a swap, multiple resolvers can fill the same transaction. It's their own competition between them, who will be the first one who will fill all of that. So they need to take care on their own how it's happening. Each Vonage Fusion resolver can basically share some profits with the user. In this case, for example, if you are owner of the Vonage tokens, you can delegate Vonage tokens and to any resolver and allow resolver to be on the top and fill the Vonage Fusion orders and get some profits. So the scheme, it looks like pretty the same as Curve Wars, as a Curve staking. And but there is one small difference here, that basically Vantage Fusion Resolver is not obligatory sharing the profits with the user. There is no direct scheme here. But if Vantage Fusion Resolver will try to refuse to share the profits, you can just undelegate from this part and delegate to another resolver. So basically, on large volumes, it will work on the markets, like there will be market competition, and any resolver is obligatory to get some profits, to share profits with the user. If it will be lower than expected from the user side, you can just try to use another one. So as you can see, like right now we have about 8 working open sources, like open resolvers, and the market share right now is much more lower in terms of Vantage Labs resolvers. It's only about 2 months that we are working right now, and we have like pretty good results right now. I just want to add that we also support not only Ethereum chain right now, we do support Binance Smart Chain and a Polygon chain, and we have plans to support all networks that we have on the front-end side. So it's about 10 networks. So it will be Ziki Sync as well. The option how you can participate as a user, for example, you just need to stake Vantage tokens. And I just want to mention, when you stake Vantage tokens, you lock your tokens for a specific amount of time. You can lock it, for example, for 2 years. In that case, you can't withdraw it for 2 years, but you have pretty good amount of delegated tokens. That means that you will have higher APR and higher profits from the resolver when you will stake it. So it's up to you how much amounts you want to stake and for how long you want to stake it. You can always unstake it before this locked period, but in this case, you will have some fee. And for example, if you lock your tokens for 2 years and you want to unstake it in the next transaction, you will lose like 99% of the total transaction in the fee. In this case, all the fees going to the Vantage DAO. So it's pretty transparent. If you have any questions, I'm pretty happy to answer that. I just want to show again our QR codes, how you can participate as a resolver, and how you can create Fusion orders using Vantage Fusion Order SDK. We do have additional instructions how you can use Fusion on our documentation website. So basically, this link's going to our documentation website. So, thank you.
Okay. So, if a third-party partner wants to integrate Fusion to, let's say, a major centralized exchange, it has to be can they, they also have a DEX aggregator. Does it have to be a separate button, or can it be somehow fused between Fusion mode and they have the legacy swap mode, right? So how would that work out?
If it will be some another DEX aggregator, it will be quite hard to aggregate it if they have only on-chain functionality. I mean, like in case of Vantage, for example, trying to integrate another Vantage. In this case, it's almost impossible because Vantage needs to integrate only DEXs. Fusion is not a DEX, and in the case of another DEX aggregator, it requires to make off-chain logic, and but they need only one atomic transaction, so it's not quite possible. Yes, they need like a different interface, and they need to explain the user that this transaction can be filled not atomically, but by some steps. There is like an auction here.
Just a how would you get historical trade data, like the trades from historical stuff?
Basically, each Fusion order is, and the end of all, is just on-chain transaction. So basically, if you would try to fill if you want to get the data, you can just index you can use Dune Analytics for the data, or you can just go to the address scan and see all the Vantage resolver orders that are executed on the Vantage Fusion contract. This is the one option that you can do. The second one, we do have right now like a database, like API, where there is a storage of all orders. You can fetch data there. But I do recommend that the best option is actually to index data from the nodes directly, or actually use Dune Analytics, for example, to fetch all Fusion orders. We do have a Dune Analytics dashboard for the Fusion, and we do have all the requests, it's quite transparent there how it's happening. So all the analysis about how Fusion is actually quite open source and transparent. Yes. Like the main logic here is that it works like that. Right now, there is one more like edge case that potentially later the fusion order can be filled not fully. There can be some small amount that will be not filled. Right now it's handled like in the case that in most cases right now it's not very profitable to fill order by small steps. So usually like usually resolvers, they just fill it atomically in multiple, like in one step or two steps. Later, with large amounts, it can be a small issue with some small amounts that is not executed. It's the same as, for example, when each limit orders have. It is the same issue. Like you can make a limit order for 100,000 Ethereum, and 0.0.1 Ethereum will be not executed in the end of all because it's just more expensive to spend on gas than execute this limit order.
Actors in the overall transaction are paying for the transaction.
Basically, it's only a resolver that is paying for the transaction, and in the case of resolver, it's the responsibility of the resolver to calculate how profitable the transaction will be for the resolver. So, and because the price is going down, that basically means that, for example, let's imagine that currently Ethereum price is like $2,000. I want to make a fusion order to sell Ethereum for $2,000. Let's imagine I make this fusion order. But nobody wants to execute this transaction because the gas price is like $20, for example. Let's wait like 10 seconds. The price right now is not $2,000. It's like $1,099.99. In this case, for example, it's profitable. And somebody will come and fill this order. So the price is going rapidly down, and during the moment when the market price is a bit lower than the real price, somebody will catch and execute this order. It's quite the same, I think, as front running, or not front running, but as arbitrage bots are working on the market. They're just trying to compete to find the way how they can execute or optimize the market. There is a period of when there is an auction. Of course, it can be cancelled. But if you want to cancel it, it must be on-chain transaction. So that's the pain point here, that if you try to cancel it, there's no guarantee that it will be cancelled instantly. You need to wait that the on-chain transaction will be executed. So yeah, it's quite painful issue here. But of course, it can be cancelled by the amount of time. But for example, in some cases, it's very edge cases, but sometimes it happens when the market is going not in your position against you. All the fusion order can be not executed at all. In this case, yeah, it's just time constrained when this fusion order is executed. All of that is actually on off-chain data that you are signing for. So basically, you can see all the details how this fusion order will be executed. There is no any something that is not off-chain or not signed or not in the permissionless way, basically.
Becoming a resolver?
Right now, there are multiple, actually one incentive program to become an each resolver. That basically means that we share some one each tokens, one each DAO sharing one each tokens to resolvers to help them to reduce their costs of building the infrastructure. There are some details on the one each website for that. So yeah, there are multiple incentives from one each team to help to build resolver on your own. And there are right now it's pretty high volumes on the Vanish Fusion order, so I do highly recommend to take a look on it. I think we can end up this. Thank you so much.